I have spent the last few months toiling away at building myself a tiny houseboat, despite not having basically any of the skills needed to do so. I'm so close to flipping this thing over and starting the fun part of the build, but before I do that, I have to cover the whole thing with fiberglass. I've never worked with fiberglass before, and if I mess this up too badly, this boat build that I've poured hundreds of dollars and countless hours into might not even float. Oh no. We are coming up very quickly on a 2-day window, the only 2-day window that I have to fiberglass. The weather's been bad, it's gonna get bad again, but for 2 days it's gonna be sunny and in the 60s and 70s. And I'm determined to fiberglass the hull during those 2 days. The nice weather starts on Monday. Right now it's Saturday afternoon, so I have a few hours today and a few hours tomorrow to do all of the prep. That should be fine because I think it's just sanding, but I need to sand everywhere where I filled with epoxy, all of the seams and all of the gaps, and also probably just the entire hull to make sure it's one really nice smooth surface. Fingers crossed, Monday morning I'll have a flawless, perfect, smooth hull ready for fiberglass. I don't know if fiberglass makes you itch when it's in this form, but just to be safe. I'm just using this tape first to go over all of the seams, which is nice because it makes me feel like I can have a little bit of practice before I do the whole entire thing. The hull is looking very, very good. There's some areas where I definitely just sanded straight through the epoxy. I think that's fine as long as I make sure it's re-saturated all the way before I put the fiberglass down. I had to turn off the camera and just work at this for a while, and I don't know, guys. I don't know if it's gonna work. Like, it looks fine right here, but I think I put way too much epoxy on, and now I'm worried that I worked too much of the epoxy out, and now there's not enough. And also, I've just made a huge mess. I'm gonna have to sand it all up. I definitely need to work in shorter sections, I think. I don't know. Oh no. Oh, no. I let the epoxy sit too long and it's now setting up way too fast. Oh no. It was fully liquid when I was pouring it out, and now it's like taffy. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have been pouring that out. Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna clean up this mess and then regroup, I guess. Look at that. Oh, I've really done it this time. Okay, I've never had that happen before because I usually work with way smaller batches, and I would have today too, except I mixed one small batch and used it in like 30 seconds. Then I thought, mix up a whole full container, then used like half of it and got distracted working on that piece of fiberglass for like 30 minutes. So yeah, I just shouldn't have poured it on there. I could see it was really, really hot, and after I poured it out, I could see that it was like smoking, which I should have, I don't know. I thought maybe if I spread it out, it would start going back to normal, but that's dumb. Anyway, the point is, I don't know if this is actually ever going to set up all the way or if it's just gonna stay a tacky mess. Hopefully it sets up all the way so I can sand it off. Either way, it's gonna be a huge pain in the ass. At this point, I'm wondering if I even continue right now or if I wait for the other side to cure and see if I did it totally wrong, because on the one hand, I should definitely wait and see if it turns out right, because it's gonna be sad enough if I have to redo that strip. If I have to redo every seam, I cannot take it. On the other hand, today and tomorrow are the only nice weather for I don't even know how long. So I don't really know what I should do. All right, I had some lunch, some time to think. I'm just gonna keep at it. I think that side's probably okay, and even if it's not, I already have a plan to do the next one better. I also just looked at the weather again, and it's now saying we're gonna have a couple of nice days next week. So I'm just gonna chill out. Getting really dead set on getting something done within a short time period has never ended well for me, so I'm just gonna act as if I have no deadlines and just work on this, I guess. I have a feeling I'm gonna enjoy it a lot more if I do it this way anyway.
Bolts of lightning, pouring rain, crescent moon has taken itself far away to lay down. One more lazy dream. I can't sleep. They used to cut. You and me, we was thicker than blood. But the sky grew dark and got inside of me. I still hear the words you told me. Baby, gonna be so lonely when I'm gone.
Alright, I have all 4 of the long seams done. I think it's looking alright. It's doing these at the bottom, but I think that's just because of this curve, maybe? Other than that, it looks pretty perfect. Other than this bit, of course. But then, now I just need to do all of the shorter seams. I feel fine about this. I'm glad that I continued, because I think it's gonna be fine. Oh my gosh. I have never been more excited to bathe. Let me do that and then I'm gonna update you guys. Okay, so I feel pretty good. Everything was going great. I finished almost all the seams. I just had a couple more and then I still need to do the seams around the stern panel. And I did the thing again. I let my epoxy sit too long and it got too hot. I didn't even see it coming this time. I didn't realize how long I had been working. I think it sat in there too long because I was doing a bunch of little short pieces, so I wasn't getting a whole bunch of it out of the container quick enough. So that gummed up again. I think I was able to scoop most of it back off. It's not a big deal because I think both of those spots will harden up, so I can just sand them, but I felt like I needed to be done for today. But it's also, at least the first one I did is probably pretty much cured by now, so let's go check it out, see how it's looking. I don't know about you guys, but I think that looks pretty good. I might go work on my porch bench now because what I would really like to be doing is relaxing on it. Actually, no, I'm just gonna go relax on it even though it's not finished. It'll support me. First order of business today is just gonna be another ton of sanding. I was at the store the other day and they were out of the packs of like 15 sanding discs. They only had the ones with 5 or the ones with like 30. I was kind of annoyed about it. And then I bought the 5 pack. Should have just gotten the 30. Alright, I think this stuff's not actually fully cured because it's like hard to the touch, but it's gumming up a little bit when I sand it, which means I don't think I can do any more of this today, which means it's a good thing I decided to chill out about this whole project because I probably can't do anything more until it gets warm again next week. Okay, upon doing a little more research and talking to some people who know what they're doing, I think that my fiberglass application was probably mostly successful, with the exception of this piece. directly after I laid this one, I realized that my epoxy had gotten too hot again, and I think it probably was already too far set up when I did this piece. I was talking about how there were so many like bubbles on the edge on this one, and I thought it was just because of the curve, but there aren't on the other side. I think if I try to pull this one off, it will just pull off, which means that it needs to be pulled off and redone. So I'm gonna try my darndest to do that. It would be tempting to just ignore it and pretend like it's fine and fiberglass over it and just tell myself that it'll be fine, but I really want my boat to float. And if I do the fiberglass wrong, it might not float. So I'm gonna take my time with this one, try to do it right. It's harder than I thought it was gonna be, actually. Okay, it's actually not coming up as nearly as easily as I thought, but I don't know. Should I make it? Should I force it off? I don't know what to do.
Someday soon I'm gonna go back behind the clouds to see the big light show in the sky. You know I've been there in my dreams. To you there, right by my side, we were ghosts with arms open wide, but we floated away. Strange distance.
So the other day I sanded down all the rough edges here and any large lumps of the resin, so it's ready for another coat. I'm really hoping I didn't over sand. So I have a few more of the little strips that I need to still put down, and then there's the big wide pieces of cloth that need to overlap. There's 6 of them, they'll all overlap to cover the entire hull. I would love to get as far as I can in that process in one day. I was reading that it's okay to do multiple layers of fiberglass on top of each other without letting them cure first. In fact, I think it's actually better. But the trick is, I think they can't get too cured, or then I have to wait for them to fully cure and sand them and everything. I don't know exactly how cured that is, but I need to try to work fast today. If I let it go too long between layers, the resin's gonna get really set up, and then I might just have to wait. And then that means more sanding and more waiting for warm weather, and I just would rather avoid that if it's possible. So I'm gonna do my best to get as much as done as I can today, but I'm also not gonna set such a strict goal that I'm gonna cut corners, because I already tend to do that, so trying not to encourage more of it. Alright, I'm most of the way through the very first piece, and this has been an ordeal. It started off terribly, but I've started to get my system down a little bit better, I think. I don't know, guys. I just truly don't know how this is going. One minute I'll think great, and the next minute I'll be like, oh no, this whole thing is just one giant air bubble. I don't know. I'm just gonna keep going, and I don't know. I guess we'll see if this floats at the end of all this. I just got done working on the second piece of fiberglass. If I lived 1,000 lifetimes, I still don't think I would have the vocabulary to express how much I hated that. First of all, most importantly, I epoxied a bunch of dirt to my knee. Keep in mind I just got out of the shower, so this is what it looks like post-scrub. The first piece started out kind of rough, but I really got into a groove with it, figured out a system that worked, and I was ready for the next pieces to go so much faster. But the second piece I did was in the same position as the first one, but on the other side of the hull. So those two pieces overlapped each other in the middle, and trying to lay the fiberglass down on top of the partially cured resin, it was impossible. I did not see any words of wisdom about not doing that in all of the what not to do with fiberglass videos that I watched. And so I don't know if I was just very bad at it, but it was so difficult. The speed with which I changed my tune from thinking the most efficient way to do this would be to get it all done in one day to minimize sanding, to realizing I would rather sand for 50 years straight than try to get those air bubbles out under those conditions. But it was, I can't, my brain is broken because of how miserable that was. And it didn't turn out well either. There's definitely still a few air bubbles. I didn't even manage to finish the entire second piece. I ended up cutting it into smaller sections to make it easier to work with, which did make it easier to work with, but it was still terrible. I didn't even quite make it all the way to the end, and the pieces that I did get down, they're definitely not 100% air bubble free. They're pretty air bubble free, but not all the way. It might be a total redo. I don't know if this is the kind of thing where, like, can you get fiberglass partially correct and then just fix up the bad parts, or is this one of those things where it's either 100% right or you gotta scrap it? Anyway, I'll show you how it turned out. Not today. Right now I don't want to see a boat or a squeegee or a mixing cup ever again in my whole life. But now I think it's gotta be done in 3 different days because that was just not manageable. Well, as much as I never want to do that again, I cannot wait for it to be over. So I'll be back. I'm in much better spirits today. Let's check out the damage, shall we? Alright, it looks medium bad. About what I expected. I've got several air bubbles. Like I said, I could not for the life of me get this cloth totally straightened out when it was already down on the sticky epoxy, so that was inevitable. Luckily, the internet tells me you can either fill them or just sand them down and patch them. I will be doing that option because they're way too big to just fill. But I think this is a mild disaster, if anything. I think it can be fixed. So today, obviously, gotta start with sanding. Gotta sand down this whole freaking thing again. And then my neighbor was just out here and he made a very good point. I could just lay down all the cloth before I started with the resin, which I didn't even think of because when I first started laying down the first piece, I was trying to wet the wood underneath and then lay that down on top, but that was also pretty difficult, so I stopped doing that like halfway through the first piece. So I can see no downside to laying all the cloth at once, as long as I make sure to get it wet enough, you know? Oh my gosh, so many bugs died in here. Last remaining snag is that last time I was out here, I laid down not quite even 2 pieces of cloth, and I used an entire gallon kit of resin, and I only have 1 left because that was supposed to be how much I was gonna need for all the fiberglassing and then everything else I need it for. So clearly I'm using way too much. I have another kit on the way, but it's not gonna be here for a couple days, so I was going back and forth about whether I should even start the fiberglassing again today. But I think I'm gonna do it. I think I'm gonna try to use less, and if I do find that I'm not gonna have enough, what I've already done is these 2 middle pieces, and so what I need to do now is a piece that goes here, and a piece that goes here and here. So if I do find that I don't have enough after I've done this side, then I won't have gotten any resin on this side and it should be fine. I don't think there will be really any harm to me having done part of it today if I can't get to all of it. So I'm gonna get to work. I have some motivation to be efficient today because I'm supposed to meet up with some friends at 4:30 this evening, and I only get to do that if I finish what I need to do here. That's the rules. Okay, definitely using too much resin. Did you guys see how much powder I just had to sweep off the hole? I didn't take off hard lady fiberglass, so that had to all have just been extra resin. I also realized I am out of gloves. I thought it was overkill when I bought 100 rubber gloves, but apparently not. I'm definitely learning a lot. Every single day that I work on the fiberglass, I learn like a dozen new things about it. Enough to where maybe by the time I'm about done with this fiberglassing project, I might even know how to do it a little bit. This just makes me really envious of people who can just learn how to do something correctly just by watching videos and reading about it and not by doing it wrong first. Although I'm also kind of skeptical that they actually exist. I'm not one of them. We know that much. Alright, I got the gloves. I also got this drywall thingy, whatever this is. I don't think with the squeegee that I was using that I was squeezing enough of the resin through. So I'm ending up wasting so much resin and having to sand way more than I want to. So hopefully this thing will help me avoid any more of that. I only have 2.5 hours till I'm supposed to meet my friends. I have a sneaking feeling I might not make it. so much better. So much better. Well, what do we think? Is it gonna float?